Welcome back, Beans Army, to another episode of the Less is More Sports Podcast, the college off-season podcast, where you could say we're less of the regular season, but more of the off-season. Before Ryan and I get in on some conference tournament action, I do want to say that Ryan and I had our own battles on the hardwood last night. Last week. Wow, almost messed that up. Um, or I should say the concrete because it was outdoor, but we actually
Yeah.
got around to playing some basketball last week. And my first question to Ryan is, Ryan, am I as good or better or worse than you thought?
No, I had expectations that I had high expectations. I think you lived up to it. I think we both can say that we need to probably get into basketball shape for the summer. But yeah, it was fun and unless when we were playing, we played like all kinds of different things. Like we play one on one, we played on the same team, we played against each other in like a threes game. And I think I had the most fun playing on the same team because we were just abusing the pick and roll, and it was working every time. But no, I'm glad to finally play. But yeah, we'll be doing that more during the summer. But it was uh it was fun playing on the hard concrete.
hmm
Yeah, but no, it was a lot of fun. I had expectations. I think you lived up to them.
Well, that's good to hear. Yeah, I have to say the one thing that I was the most impressed with is that the natural chemistry that we had. Like you said, we were absolutely abusing it in the pick and rolls. I mean, it was
Yeah.
there every play, and how we just were able to play off of each other and complement each other well. That was probably the most impressive part to me. I do have to say that Ryan and I did play one on one, and I know the fans have been listening probably want to know how that went. And what I will say about that is that although I did win, I think if Ryan had about 10 more pounds of muscle on him, he would have won. Because by the time we actually played, like Ryan said, we maybe need to get into better basketball shape. I
Yeah.
think going on runs and lifting weights only does so much, but when basketball, you're using every muscle. All those muscles working, adds to a different level of fatigue. Yeah, so I think we need to get in probably better basketball shape as the summer goes on. But by the time we played, I was so gassed that I
This
had
is
to
after
literally
like four games.
I had to take like two timeouts during the game. It was so bad. But yeah, I just like I had no legs on my jump shot, so like I just had to back him down every play and just get shots at the rim, use my footwork and but yeah, if Ryan had about 10 more pounds of muscle, I wouldn't be wouldn't be able to post him up and use my frame against him. But no, it was
Yeah.
a fun time. It was good. It was all
Uh,
good on good
and
experience.
yeah, and we were playing on like the double rim of doom and despair. This rim was not giving any grief at all. Like this was crazy, but no, it was obviously fun. We play like one on one after playing what like probably four or five games, uh but yeah, and you know what I thought about after that we were done playing
What?
that I was not gonna do because I didn't want to hurt you. I was not gonna pull the chair from you if you tried to back me down. Like what Javon Hadley just did to Malik Renew. I was not gonna do that to you. That would have been awful.
I'll be honest, like I wouldn't have blamed you if you did because like there's so many as like as strong as as I've always been naturally like a big guy. So
Yeah.
I'm used to throwing my body around in the post. But have been times where I've been going up against a post player that's bigger than me, and I've pulled the chair a few times.
Dude,
I am not gonna lie. But
on the concrete, that would have hurt so bad.
I do. I listen. I make my bed. I can lay in it.
I look
I
out
wouldn't
for
be.
my
I wouldn't have
friends.
been mad at you.
I
Like
look
you.
out for my friends.
I appreciate that. Oh, we're friends. That's so sweet.
Yeah, I guess. Just kidding.
But anyways, enough about our basketball for the time being. We're going to get into some conference tournament action. And in case you haven't been following on the social media pages, Matt is not going to be on the show this weekend. He posted his own recap of the mid-major tournaments, so definitely tune into the Less is More Sports social media pages if you haven't to go ahead and check out and see what he has to say. And he will be live tweeting during the selection Sunday tomorrow because we are recording this episode before the brackets are officially filled. But one thing we do want to say, because even though it doesn't feel right getting into mid-major action without our very own mid-major Matt, is that Miami of Ohio did suffer their first loss of the year in the Mid-American Conference Tournament to the UMass Minutemen and the psycho himself, head coach Frank Martin. So my question is, how bad does this hurt their tournament chances? Now, before Ryan, I let you give your answer here. I do want to say that we ran a poll on Twitter and I asked the question of, does this loss hurt Miami of Ohio's chances of making the tournament? But 100% of the voters believe that Miami of Ohio does deserve to get to the NCAA tournament. So, Ryan, what are overall your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would agree with those 100% of the voters. I think that they should get in. Now, if we're looking at it a different way, they did not help themselves out at all because this is already a discussion whether they should be in or not. And, Auburn thinking they should be in, but they're just like a whole different discussion. But yeah, they didn't help themselves out at all losing to UMass in like the first round of the MAC tournament. Was the first round, right? Of the MAC tournament?
Second.
The second round? Okay. Yeah, they didn't help themselves out at all, like for their case for the NCAA tournament. But I believe that, it would look so bad uh on the tournament, committee for leaving them out. So they should 100% be in my opinion that like they should be in and face whoever. Now, if you're I think one of the questions was are they, how are they going to do once they get in? I don't know. They might go out as soon as they play a team with like that's pretty decent with a pulse. Like I don't think that they're like the greatest. Like I think their offense is good. Their defense will struggle against a team that is higher D1.
No, I actually agree because I believe that even though it's an automatic tournament bid to win your conference tournament, I also believe that an undefeated regular season should be an automatic bid for the NCAA tournament. That's just my personal opinion. But no, I agree with Ryan. Now, how well are they going to do once they get in the tournament is a different story because if you look at their Ken Palm rating and their strength of schedule, it's absolute ass. We're not even
Yeah.
going to sugarcoat it. And I know Matt's been talking in the group chat, and I support where he's saying is that how it's been their season has been so entertaining with all the winners they've hit this season and all the games that have come down to the wire. But again, when you look at that strength of schedule and they're winning these close games, that doesn't help. But because they did finish the regular season undefeated, I do believe that deserves an automatic bid into the NCAA tournament. But I agree with Ryan's like depends on who they match up with. I don't see them going far because
I don't either.
they're going to go against a team that's probably played a much tougher schedule. Has not. They're not going to throw anything at them that they haven't seen before. And I think it would be a good tournament if they make it to the second round.
Yeah, I agree.
But enough about mid majors because it doesn't feel right talking about mid majors without our very own mid major Matt on the show. So we're going to move on to the big schools. And now, before we get into like the conference tournaments of the bigger tournament, before the bigger conferences, I think it's still safe to say that as we head into Selection Sunday tomorrow, it's still there's about four teams that have really separated themselves as the best of in college basketball. You have Michigan, you have Duke, Arizona, and Florida. All teams that are playing really well right now and primed to go on a national championship run. But if you had to pick one team, Ryan, outside of that four to win it all, who are you picking?
And I feel like this might be an obvious choice, like picking them like that's literally right outside of the top four. I'm gonna go with Houston. I mean, most of their offense is back. I know they're missing, like they don't have LJ Cryer this year, or their big man. I think his last name was Sharp. But they have Kingston Flemings, who's an absolute baller, and he controls that offense with Emmanuel Sharp. Or with Emmanuel Sharp. I don't know what the big. No, I think the big man was Roberts last year that they're missing this year. And then they still have Tugler and some of the good offensive players, but Sampson's defense is usually really good. So I'm gonna go with Houston. They showed that they can get there last year. And so I think that if it wasn't the top four that wins it, I think it would be Houston that can win it with Kelvin Sampson.
I also agree. Houston would be my choice outside of the big four to win it all. And kind of like for a lot of the reasons Ryan said, They feel like they've been knocking on the door last couple years. Last year, they made it all the way to the national championship game. And a Kelvin Sampson coach team, you know they're going to be able to play defense. But freshman Kingston Flemings gives them another dimension on offense, being able to score the rock the way he does. So Houston would be my best choice to win outside of that big four. Now, for the other side of that question, again, keeping it with that big four here, which of that big four do you see potentially losing first?
Look, you know, look, this is not gonna be a favorites answer, all right? This is not gonna be something that someone's gonna love. But I'm gonna unfortunately go with Duke that loses first. It might be a hot take, but you know, I'm trying to think of his name. Uh Caleb Foster going out. It's just, maybe he's not the greatest point guard ever, but he's the one that leads the charge, and he's the one that they're probably comfortable with taking the ball, um, starting the offense, getting players where they need to be. I just think that's huge, and you know, in March we know that you need guards to hit big time shots, to control the offense, to settle everyone down whenever stakes are high. So I'm gonna go with Duke. I think that the big men are great with you, and Gungbo will be back, right, for the tournament, and then you obviously.
We expect Pat to be back.
Yeah. Are you on the team? Who's we? I'm just kidding.
Okay, wow.
I'm just kidding. No, I say we, but you
I
sounded
say
like.
we from a media perspective because all the media reports are that Pat is going to be back.
No, it was funny. I didn't mean to say it like that way, like because I say we on teams, but you sounded like you were like, you talk to Shire all the time.
Yeah, like me and yeah, I'm a
Me and Shire are cool.
glorified trainer on the team or something. Like, yeah, we gonna be all right,
Yeah,
type
he's been
shit, type
practicing
shit.
with me the past couple of days. He's expected to be back for the tournament. But no, and obviously you got most consistent player in the country, Cam Boozer. So they have the big men, but I'm struggling with the guards that will lead you far. Now, I'm not saying Duke is losing it early in any type of way, and I don't think any of these top four will lose early, kind of like last year. But I think that when it comes to time, Duke will be the first one to go out, and that is not an answer that Les wants to hear, but this is my opinion.
Whether it's an answer I want to hear, it was definitely an answer that I expected to hear because anytime you lose a veteran point guard, and again, we expect your starting center to play, but that's still up in the air of how early he's going to play and if he's going to be in basketball shape when he comes back. So even if it's the answer I don't want to hear, it is the answer I expected because that's for storyline purposes, that's the main narrative around Duke right now is that they're out two key starters. So they would naturally be the choice here. I'm actually going to go with Michigan as the team I see could lose first, not because I don't think Michigan's a great team, not because I'm not sold on what they've done this season, but because of things I've said earlier in the podcast is that the one weakness they do have is I think defending the three-point shot, and that is something that can come back to bite a team in the ass in the NCAA tournament. Now, if you think picking Duke is a hot take, I have an even hotter take for you.
Go ahead.
What I will say is that if Duke is able to overcome the injuries and they do go on to win the national championship, I'm going to make a prediction right now that Caden Boozer will win Final Four Most Outstanding Player. And go back and watch his high school tape. He has a knack for taking his game to another level in the playoffs. I saw it firsthand last year in the Chipotle Nationals where he won tournament MVP. And it was the same thing in those EYBL championships. But I keep hearing the same narratives that Ryan, I'm sure you've heard as well, that he's baggage for Cameron. He'll transfer to Tarleton State next year. Or he should have gone D3 and averaged 20. And listen, what I'm going to tell you is that those mouth breathers don't know ball. This is a legitimate five-star point guard, and you're about to watch him go to work. And you watched him go to work last night against Clemson, where he scored a career high 16 points and actually led Duke in plus minus with 18.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely have heard those, but I've also heard that Cam Boozer got the good looking genetics, like he just stole them all from Caden Boozer.
He got the height,
Yeah.
he got the facial hair gene. I don't. He got, and he's the more talented of the two. I mean,
You
That's a
know,
legitimate question that I've heard too, is like back-to-back years, Duke's star player has been from a set of twins. And a legitimate question is,
oh no, the flags are worse. It's so much worse.
no, but I know, I actually think it's a legitimate question is who do you feel worse for, Ace Flag or Caden Boozer? And
I think it's Ace.
see, I actually think it's Caden for the
Really?
complete opposite reasons. Because the reason I say that is because Ace Flag, although a good player, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, he's a D1 player, he's a good player. I think it's known at this point in his career that he's not Cooper,
Yeah.
and he's had all the opportunities to be as good as Cooper. Cooper just just took his training to another level and became a generational player. But Ace grew up in the same environment, has very likable measurables as as far as the body type goes. But I look at Caden Boozer, and not only is he a five-star prospect in his own right, who gets overshadowed by his own brother, but his brother, like Ryan just said, got
I didn't realize that he was actually this tall. So
yeah, he's 6'7", yeah.
At least Cooper didn't steal all the hype.
Yeah, no, Cooper didn't steal all the height. Cooper's only about 2 inches taller. But yeah,
He's
like Caden Boozer,
averaging he's averaging 6.7 points, by the way.
a but no, Ace is more known as a perimeter defender. He's been like that since his days at what oh gosh, what was their AU team? I can't even think of it.
Let me look.
Maine United or something like that.
Okay.
But anyways, no, Caden being that he is a great player in his own right, but is overshadowed just by his brother, and the fact that his brother's taller, has a bigger frame, is able and yeah, I think
Yeah,
Caden is the one I would feel worse for personally.
Man United. I was just talking about like looks wise for Cooper and Ace, but obviously both really good basketball players.
Well,
But
I
I didn't.
personally am not looking at a bunch of teenagers' appearances.
Well, everyone is, and you're just not, I guess. But I want to ask you this question before we get into whatever's next. I don't know if this is what you're going to talk about next. I want your thoughts on Bruce and Stephen Pearl.
Auburn's played a tough schedule. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Well, and
That's all I'm going to say about that.
Stephen Pearl was talking in the locker room and they like videoed it. They pulled like a Dan Lanning and started videoing, and it just seemed like this wasn't a serious talk to his team. It was just like a case for the committee to pick them. He was like, "You play the toughest schedule in the country, blah 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 blah." Like you're just trying to get yourself in the tournament when you have like 16 losses. How
Yeah.
does that, you're trying to get in the tournament, but you have that many losses and all you can do is blame yourself. So like, and I saw a meme that says, okay, this is not me talking. This is a meme. It was like Steven looking at Bruce and it was like, Daddy, they're not going to let us in the playoff. Which is or it let us in the tournament, which is hilarious because he's probably gonna go crying to Bruce, and Bruce is gonna throw a fit and probably put a bill on the NCAA to let them in the tournament. It's outrageous. They should not be in over Miami, Ohio. You have 15 losses. What are we talking about?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, maybe if you have 10 losses, it's a different conversation,
Yeah.
but I mean, I understand they played a much tougher schedule than Miami of Ohio. We're not going to dispute that. But again, Miami of Ohio finished the regular season undefeated. At that point, how do you justify leaving a team who finished the regular season undefeated out of the tournament?
Yeah.
And again, like Travis Steele has said many times, it's not for lack of trying that we're not playing a good schedule. Like we're trying to schedule better teams. It's just the other team's got to pick up the phone and make the schedule as well.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
all they can do is beat who's in front of them.
Yeah. And now they have 16 losses. I just looked it up with losing
Yeah,
Tennessee.
16 losses is too much.
Yeah. Way too much.
I think the cutoff should be 12 at the most.
Yeah, I agree because it'd be like 20 and 12 heading into, I don't know if that is the right, like wins and losses, or the right total to head into the tournament, but like head into the conference tournament, I'm meaning.
Fair enough. But we have some conference tournament action today for the bigger tournaments because, again, I don't feel right talking about the mid majors without our very own mid major Matt. We have three conference championships going on tonight, starting with the Big 12 championship at 6 p.m. We have Arizona versus Houston. Who do you have winning that game?
Look, that Houston or that Arizona game was, I mean, it was such good basketball yesterday. That was crazy. Big time shots, Momcilovic and oh, what's his name for Arizona? Hold on, let me look it up real quick. Momcilovic and Delorso just absolutely making threes back and forth. It was awesome. Arizona versus who'd you say?
Houston.
Houston. I know they both played probably a couple times this year. I like Arizona. I'm gonna stay loyal. I like Arizona. They're just such a deep team. They can go, as far as they want in their depth. I'm gonna go with Arizona. They stay hot. They were battle tested during the season, one of the tougher schedules in the country. I'm gonna go with them.
I'm also going to go with Arizona. They have the size advantage over Houston, not to mention when it comes to guard play, because we know that's successful this time of year, they do have the Big 12 Player of the Year. I know that got a lot of attention on why Jaden Bradley won Big 12 Player of the Year over AJ Debonsa, but shots like what Jaden Bradley hit last night are exactly why he won Big 12 Player of the Year. He's just had a knack for the big moment all season long. And I'll be honest, I think it makes a bigger argument. His own teammate makes a bigger argument than Braden Burries personally, but
Yeah, Burris has been so good.
Burries has been very good. But again, Jaden Bradley has been the catalyst on one of the top teams in America. So it's, yeah, I totally support him winning Big 12 Player of the Year.
Yeah.
The next conference championship game that goes on tips off at 6:30 in the Big East. We have St. John's versus UConn. Who do you have in that game? I feel like I know, but I just want to see if I'm right or not.
Look, I mean, I know, and by the way, saw an interview yesterday where Danny Hurley got reminded how many national championship he's won recently.
Oh, Lord.
No. But I know that these teams split during the regular season, but I'm gonna go with a guy that as as older as he is, he can still coach. I'm gonna go with Rick Pitino in the St. John uh Ricky P and St. John's, and I think that they take down UConn. I don't really know how, like, obviously, Danny Hurley knows how to get deep into March, but I'm not sure how good this UConn team is. I can't really tell, but I'm gonna go with St. John's.
A surprise to absolutely nobody. Ryan goes with the former Louisville coach Rick Pitino, and actually, I'm going to agree with him. I think St. John's is playing really good basketball right now. I'm not overly sold on this UConn team.
Mhm.
I feel like they were in quite a kind of a little bit more of a battle than they should have been with Georgetown last night, but neither here nor there. No, I
Um,
still don't think Danny Hurley teams are the same without that dominant big in the middle. I think that's what we've seen in his two championship wins is having that Adama Sanogo or that Donovan Clingan. And although they're still a good team, a team you shouldn't take lightly, I don't think they're as unbeatable as they are with those presences in the middle. So I'm gonna go with the St. John's Red Storm as winning
yeah.
the Big 12, I mean the Big East championship. I apologize.
You've been agreeing with me a lot. Are you okay? Or
No, I'm kind of feeling a little warm, dude. It's kind of weird. I don't know. I don't like agreeing with Ryan so much. This might be an off week for me.
yeah, you might have to just, pick a hot take team and just so you break the streak.
No, I doubt it's going to be this next one. So the third and final conference championship game today is the ACC. We have Virginia versus Duke. This is a rematch of a game we saw a couple weeks ago on February 28th in Cameron Indoor Stadium, where the Duke Blue Devils absolutely, you know, blew the roof off against the Virginia Cavaliers. And we now have the rematch. Now, of course, this go around, it's without Patrick Ngongba. It's without Caleb Foster. So, Ryan, who wins, Virginia or Duke?
I'm gonna be nice and I'm gonna take Duke, even with their guard and Ngungba out. Uh, and Virginia is obviously they're a very good team. I mean, Louisville lost to Miami and Virginia handled Miami pretty well. So props to them. They're a really, really good team. What Odom has done has been really like very, very good with, what he was kind of left with. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Duke. I just think that their star power will be better. And if Isaiah Evans has like 32 points again, it's hard to stop that with Cameron Boozer probably putting up 20 and 10. So I'm gonna go with Duke. I don't think that they manhandled Virginia as much as they did, in Cameron Indoor, which is tough to do, without some of your star players. But I still think that they win a close one.
Do I think this game will be a blowout like last game? Not even close. Um, we are going to see the missed presence of having Caleb Foster and Patrick Ngongba out there. Do I think Virginia shoots better than they did in that first matchup? Absolutely, because that was one of the big storylines. Now, you can credit Duke's defense as much as I do, or you could also say that Virginia had an off night shooting because that's all valid points. So I think it's going to be a much more competitive battle this go around. But ultimately, I agree. I am going to go with my Blue Devils as a surprise to absolutely nobody, but I am definitely expecting a battle. But one thing I'm going to say, it's a point that Ryan made, is like if Isaiah Evans goes for like 32, well, you look at last night against Clemson, he scored 6 points, but it was the Caden Boozers, it was the Nick Jimenez that stepped up. Duke's really embracing that next man up mentality, and which is going to vote them well in the NCAA tournament because I mean this is really good experience from some of the guys that maybe didn't have as big of a role earlier in the season are now getting pushed into that scenario now to where they're going to have to perform. And Nick Amenia, I can't say enough about. He's really taken his game to the next level as in recently. I know a lot of people earlier in the season were projecting him to be a potential lottery pick, and I was never one to agree with that, but he's starting to come around, play some good basketball. I always believed he'd be a 2, 3 year player, and we're starting to see him kind of hit that end of the year freshman curve where they really start to get it. So, but it's the other guys I think that are showing that they can step up, and Darren Harris again too. After not playing against Michigan and going out and scoring a career high 16 against Notre Dame, it seems like he's been a more confident shooter coming off the bench. And the one 3-point shot he took yesterday against Clemson, I mean, as soon as he stepped into that shot, man, you knew it was going in. I mean, he shot that with full confidence. And that's what you really want to see from a guy like him. This is a Darren Harris that I was really high on coming out of Paul VI High School. This is a guy that I actually thought was going to start over Con Knipple. As crazy as that sounds now, looking back as a year later, looking at Con Knipple is now the favorite to win Rookie of the Year in the NBA, and how good of a freshman season he had at Duke. When they first committed, I thought Darren Harris was going to play over him. When he was in the Chipotle Nationals with Paul VI, I mean, he was the second best player in that tournament, the first being Cooper Flagg. So, yeah, it's good to see a shooter like Darren Harris starting to gain his confidence again. But yeah, it's the other guys that are able to step up as to what makes this Duke team so dangerous. And then, of course, the tournament happens, and hopefully Pat Ngongba comes back, and they'll add another piece of depth, and get their starting center back, and have that interior force on the inside. But yeah, ultimately, I do think Duke is going to win, but it's going to be a very close game and it's going to be a battle. So
Yeah. And who's your starting? Is Boozer starting in your center right now, or is there a backup?
Malik is starting at center.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because I know you're obviously still a tall team, and you can bring in Dame Sarr, who's pretty tall, as I can tell.
hmm But no,
Yeah.
Malik is starting at center right now.
Yeah.
Boozer's
And
still at the 4.
yeah, at least he has experience with the playing, and then you're not like bringing in a fresh body that hasn't been playing all season.
Right, exactly. But anyways, we have two more conference tournaments to talk about. We have the SEC semifinals going on today. We have Vanderbilt and Florida, and then we also have Ole Miss and Arkansas. Ole Miss has been a great story. They've been playing some really good basketball during the tournament. But we'll start with Florida and Vandy. Who do you have in that game?
Florida and Vandy, I have Florida. They just, even I don't think Boogie Flam played that well, but Alex Condon did yesterday against Kentucky. Florida just looks like so good right now, and we'll see how their guards will be in the tournament. But their big men with Chinyelu, with Condon and with Tommy Houck, these guys are these guys are so good and they could take over the game. So I'm gonna go with Florida.
I'm also going to go with Florida. I hate to keep agreeing with Ryan, but Florida's playing as good a basketball as anybody. And now going into the second game, we have Ole Miss versus Arkansas. Ole Miss is playing as good a basketball as as anybody in the SEC right now. They're absolutely on fire, making that, as a Texas fan, making that loss to Ole Miss in the first round of the SEC tournament look a little bit better. But of course, Darius Acuff made his SEC tournament debut this week and dropped a 40 ball, so he's playing as good as anybody is well right now. So who do you have, Ole Miss or Arkansas?
Yeah, Ole Miss has been a great story, and I think they've had a solid team all year, but they're 15 and 19. That's not good at all. I wonder if they think that they should also be in the tournament. But yeah, obviously, if they would win, they would be in. But I'm gonna go with Arkansas. Darius Acuff is just on like just a crazy level right now. He's dropping 37 last game against I think they played Oklahoma. Yeah, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Arkansas over Ole Miss and heading to the finals of the SEC championship.
This is where we have our first disagreement because I'm going to go with Ole Miss in this game because they are playing for their tournament lives and they're playing as good as anybody in the SEC right now. And as good as Darius Acuff is and as good as Darius Acuff is playing, I think Ole Miss can do a great job of shutting everybody else down. And I think that's what's ultimately going to be the key because, Arkansas was in kind of a battle last night against Oklahoma. And as
Mhm.
good as Ole Miss is playing, the way they just beat Alabama and the way they've kind of steamrolled the two teams before that, I like the way the Rebels are playing. So I'm going to go with Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the last big conference tournament to talk about. We have the Big Ten. Of course, today we have Michigan versus Wisconsin and Purdue versus UCLA. Both matchups feature a team that's actually making for a good story in the conference tournament. And of course, we'll start with the Michigan-Wisconsin game because Wisconsin's playing some really good ball right now as well. So who do you have, Michigan or Wisconsin?
I got Michigan, but I like how Ohio State played against Michigan. They held their own. I'm excited. That makes me excited for March Madness with Ohio State. But I'm gonna go with Michigan. I'm not sure how far they'll make it. I see some flaws, I think we know how good they could be, but we still see some flaws with the team. So, but I'm gonna go with Michigan in this matchup. It's a rematch because Wisconsin is one of Michigan's or one of two losses for Michigan. So at Michigan, so I'm gonna go with the Michigan Wolverines in this matchup over Wisconsin.
We disagree again. I'm actually going to look for Wisconsin to pull the upset today because I think one of the things you can do against Michigan is if you shoot the ball well, you can give them a lot of problems. Wisconsin can definitely do that. So I think Wisconsin, as good as they're playing, as good as they're shooting the ball right now, I think they're going to pull the upset against Michigan, which brings us to the second game of the Big Ten tournament. We have Purdue versus UCLA. UCLA knocked off Michigan State last night. Donovan Dent was an absolute force. So who do you have, Purdue or UCLA?
Look, Mick Cronin, his whole deal kind of it started like as soon as the season started, but it really made case for when they played Michigan State and they got their get back yesterday. They beat them, but I'm gonna go with Purdue, even though I think Purdue is a little bit overrated. I still think that they will beat UCLA. I mean, Braden Smith is leading the charge. They just need more consistency from both Braden Smith and Fletcher Loyer to win. But Trey Coppin-Ren's a force down low, so I'm gonna go with Purdue.
I'm glad we're on a roll right here. I'm disagreeing again. I'm going to go with the Bruins because I have not liked Purdue's perimeter defense all year round, and I am going to go with the Bruins. I think Donovan Dent's going to have his way, either scoring or putting his teammates in a good position to make plays as well. So I'm going to go with UCLA, which brings me now to the final part of this segment. Because we have two tournaments that are not ending today, we're going to predict the winners for tomorrow. I think Ryan for the SEC has Florida and Arkansas playing in the SEC championship. So Florida and Arkansas, who wins that game?
I got Florida. I think that they're just too powerful right now. They probably need to lose a game, and this would be towards the regular season, so they can get like so they don't worry about like losing a game going into the tournament. I have like a one of my friends is a Florida fan and he wants them to lose just before the tournament so they can, get that out of the way, but they just look too good and they handle Kentucky. I mean, Kentucky came back a little bit during like the end, but that's what they do normally. So I'm gonna go with Florida.
So I have Florida versus Ole Miss for the SEC championship. I'm also going to go with Florida, and Florida is going to end Ole Miss's tournament hopes. Again, like Brian said, they just look too powerful right now.
Yep.
They're playing too good at basketball, and they will win now. That'll be their 14th in a game in a row that I believe they would
Yep.
win should they win that game. So now for the going on to the Big Ten, I believe Ryan has Michigan and Purdue playing in the championship game. Who wins that game?
I will say, which obviously you have the two opposite teams. I think that Michigan will win and they will get their hopes up and then they will well, I was gonna say that they will I picked Duke to lose first in the tournament, but I was gonna say I don't think they'll make it as far as, people think how good this Michigan team is. They'll make it probably Sweet 16, Elite Eight, but probably more Elite Eight. But I think Michigan wins the Big Ten. I think that they're just too deep against like the teams that they would be facing. They're too long with, Ade Mara, and they will be able to control their destiny and win it.
So I have the polar opposite for the Big Ten championship. I will have Wisconsin versus UCLA. I'm gonna go UCLA. I actually like the way they're playing right now. Mick Cronin's gonna make up for all the storylines he's been involved in with his antics and all that stuff, and it's all gonna be good with a Big Ten championship.
Yep.
So that is what I have for that is who I have for the Big Ten championship. Now we have about little under 3 minutes left before the timer runs out, so I'm going to go ahead and get this out of the way. As always, like and subscribe to the Less is More Sports YouTube and Spotify channel to get the latest updates we have on new content coming out. Be sure to follow the social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Threads. It's at Less is More Sports. And again, we have a little over 2 minutes before we timer runs out. So, what are some closing thoughts on the potential of the NCAA tournament or anything you just want to get off your chest, Ryan?
What do you think about the LED court?
For the Big 12 tournament,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. I like how they're at least waiting for play action to stop before they start doing all that flashing because I feel like if it was
Yeah.
like during play, like it would be very distracting, but they'll wait till like somebody scores a bucket and then they like everybody's getting set back on defense and then they'll start doing some designs and stuff and I think that's cool. But if they
Yeah.
started doing that like throughout the whole game, I feel like that would be distracting as hell.
Mhm. Yeah, and I know it's giving players migraines and it's a little slippery. So that's who knew glass was slippery.
I know,
But
right?
but so is some negative effects, but honestly, for a fan perspective, it was very, very cool. It's probably a reach to start or to like test it during, one of the biggest weekends in college basketball besides like March, like the whole a bunch of weeks of March Madness. But it was cool. Now, obviously, they've moved back to hardwood, but seeing them make a free throw, it would do come is some kind of design or like a dunk or a three. So it was pretty cool from a fan perspective.
Yeah, I feel like this would have been a better experiment for like a non-conference neutral site game than
Yeah,
necessarily for a conference tournament. But yeah, I mean, again, it's cool for fans, but I definitely get like if as a player, like that would definitely you don't want to be getting migraines out there.
yeah, and it's the court's been used because like the women played on it first, and
Hmm.
people were saying that like now like parts of like between the screen is like coming up and it's making it slippery. So
Hmm.
it's turned into like a bad thing, and now they moved to hardwood. So
Fair enough.
yeah, but it's pretty cool. I'm not sure how much they'll ever use it, or they're like they'll fix it in a way that where they can maybe use it.
I think that's fair.
They should let us use it instead of the concrete.
They should.
Yeah.
Maybe I would have won by more.
Probably not, but
No, probably not. I'm actually color deficient and light sensitive because of my blue eyes, so I actually probably would definitely advantage you on that one.
yes. That would be I could pull the chair and it wouldn't hurt that bad.
Exactly.